Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm Brittany Pacheco, and we are the only watchers in the basement today.
Yes, we are, Brittany. It's a special edition of the Watchers in the Basement, a very cold edition. And we should know something about that, given we used to do all of our shows in a cold studio, but this is colder than the studio.
Yeah.
Historic winter weather has hit Houston, our hometown. And
Well, my
thus,
hometown.
well, I live here too. I've lived here since 2006, so I've been here a while.
I've lived here since '89, so just
Okay.
saying.
Okay. Like everything else, you win.
I
You
know.
win, you win. Okay.
I know. Okay.
But given the weather conditions, which I'm sure everyone kind of is aware of, only Brittany and I have the ability to do the show today. I think George is without power. Frank has got had a pipe burst in his house, which that's awful.
Yeah.
And I'm not Nathan might have power issues. I'm not sure.
I think Nathan's taking refuge right now,
Nope,
so he's
he's
not
not.
available
Yeah,
today, and we wish we could have the rest of the crew with us. Hopefully, even everyone out there who's tuning in, we hope that, this finds you in good spirits. I know it's tough right now, obviously, not just weather. Um, Obviously, we're still in a pandemic. Um, this this is still a rough time period to be in right now. And I think I saw a meme yesterday saying about 80s and 90s kids, living through once in a lifetime events, and it's Ben Affleck, like yes, I feel that because I am tired of living through once in a lifetime events. So,
yeah.
um, to everyone out there, hopefully, like I said, this finds you in good spirits. Hopefully, on the up and up. If we can bring you just a little bit of light out of this very, very serious and kind of dark period for many, hopefully we can, brighten your day. So,
Yeah, that's what we're gonna try to do. Because as we're recording this, it's February 17th, which is Michael Jordan's birthday. So happy birthday to Michael Jordan. He is 58 years old today. Um,
damn, you got to call him out like that,
I
man.
know. No, I mean, it's awesome though. February 17, 1963, the world changed forever. He was born. So yeah. So, but anyway, as we record this, it's a Wednesday, and I personally didn't have any power or water. Well, I didn't have any power on Monday. Got my power
Hmm.
back yesterday, but I lost my water yesterday. I still don't have water. So hopefully we
Sheesh.
get that resolved soon.
Yeah.
How about you, Brittany? How are you doing over there?
You know, I've been very fortunate, very blessed to still have the things that we really do take for granted when you obviously don't have it at your fingertips. Electricity, water, um, means to just get in your car and go to a grocery store and pick up the things that you need. I
Yeah.
try to prepare as much as I could ahead of time. So here at my house, we're okay. Obviously, we're still able to utilize electricity, internet, etc. Actually, we had to go get my parents, who has been without power since Monday in the morning as well, and they unfortunately had to endure the Monday into Tuesday nighttime period. So we had to go and rescue them, if you will. So they're here. In better spirits than what they were at the house, and
Yeah.
warm. Obviously, we have each other. Definitely have food, and Luna's loving having her grandparents with her and wants to cuddle with them any opportunity she can. So yeah, very
Yeah.
fortunate here. And if I could take in everyone who's without right now, I absolutely would. I just don't have the space. I don't have the space. I don't have the means. But I mean, I really feel for everyone out there who is experiencing loss of something, water, electricity, etc. So, yeah,
It's a tough time because
yeah, it is.
I've been through this before. The hurricane in 2008 was that
Hmm.
Ike.
That was Ike.
So during that stretch, I didn't have power for 13 days, but I never lost water. And so, but because it happened like in September, it was very warm and like
Hmm.
I would much rather be warm or hot than freezing cold. Freezing cold, like the
Yeah,
body just doesn't function in that kind of. You're always thinking about how cold it is. Whereas when your body's warm, yeah, you can
yeah.
get hot, but you're we're warm-blooded mammals. We're meant to be in warm conditions. So
Well, and
uh,
in
yeah,
fairness too, because I know we have a a dedicated fan of ours, Drew, who lives up north, we're not used to this here in Texas. I mean, we're not
No,
built for this in Texas, right? It's
no.
it's once in a blue moon. Actually, this is like the first time in 122 years that I think that I read that it snowed like this and it stayed like this. I've only seen snow a handful of times, living here in Houston all my life. So we're not accustomed to
No.
the temperatures. We don't have the right clothing. We're wearing hoodies on top of each other. We don't have the right shoes to walk um, through the snow, ice, what have you. I've almost ate it a couple times just taking out my dog. Um, but the roads, like, Justin, this, people in Houston drive terribly when
Or yeah,
there's not a natural
perfect
disaster
conditions.
happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we can't drive in the rain. That's just fact. Definitely can't drive in the snow. So we're not built for this. This is so unprecedented to experience. And again, once in a lifetime event.
Mhm.
They could have had it. I don't
Let's
want
hope.
it.
Let's hope it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because I mean,
mean,
here in Texas, we don't have the infrastructure. That's very
nope.
clear. We don't have the leadership
That's
either.
very
So,
clear.
so it's been a rough time for us.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's going to be warming up the next few days. I think by the weekend we should be kind of normal temperatures.
And
Next
by
week,
warming up, we're talking from experiencing the 16-degree weather that feels like 7,
right?
going to like 30, which is today. And I'm like, oh my God, it feels so good outside compared to what we've been dealing with. And you had to sleep through that really cold dip in weather, obviously. Good
Yeah,
grief.
because when you don't have power, there's not much you can do. So once the sun sets, it's like you might as well just get in bed and get covered up and stay
Yeah,
warm because
that's
there's nothing
exactly
else
what my
you can
parents
do.
did too.
So yeah.
That's
So
rough.
happy to have power, and hopefully it stays, and hopefully I'll get water back, and hopefully everyone else will have all the necessities that we are accustomed to.
Yeah.
But now let's get into the episode. We're here to talk about WandaVision. We're talking about episode 6 of the first season, maybe the only season. I'm not sure. They haven't really addressed that yet. The title of the episode was All New Halloween Spooktacular.
Hmm.
So Brittany, let's start out with the beginning of the show. They open with a Malcolm in the Middle kind of opening theme,
I loved it.
and yeah, I love it too. But the thing about this is, I was thinking, I was like, man, was Malcolm in the Middle at the '90s at all? And it wasn't. I looked it up. It didn't
Yeah.
start until 2000, so they skipped
Right.
over. It went from the '80s to the '90s. I wonder if that's by design or if it was like, they just didn't have a '90s idea in place.
I mean, I would
But
have thought they would have gone with like maybe even a Friends style
Friends was
type.
definitely the biggest sitcom.
Yeah. And
Or I
I've
mean,
never watched
Seinfeld.
it.
Seinfeld was huge in the '90s.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the night. I mean, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air was the '90s, which
Ah,
they could
yeah.
have done something. Um, so
There you are.
when I was watching, I was like, that like maybe it started like in '98 or '99, but no, I looked it up, and Malcolm Hill started in 2000. So
Hmm.
very interesting.
I love that
Um,
show. I love
you know,
that show.
I
I thought it was great.
I didn't watch it a ton, but I mean, whenever I did see it, I liked it,
Yeah.
and it was kind of the first show that I can remember that like broke the fourth wall,
Hmm.
talking to the camera,
Right.
which obviously became a staple of The Office and Parks and
Yes.
Recreation and Modern Family
Many
and
other
all these other
shows.
shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Deadpool.
yeah, Deadpool. Yeah. Um, one thing I want to note about the opening theme is in this opening credits we have Agnes is listed as a character, Billy and
Hmm.
Tommy, the children, and Pietro is
Yes.
mentioned.
Yes.
Um,
The
so yeah,
Fox
like
property Pietro.
Fox. Well, we think so.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
it's the actor who is
It's
in
the
those
actor.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
we'll see if it's actually.
But
Yeah,
did you notice when the camera went to Agnes? Of course, she's like rifling through the refrigerator, but
right.
she's wearing the very I remember these so well. These iconic, they were like juicy
Yeah,
branded
yeah,
jumpsuit. They were like velvet suede kind of thing, and it would have something bejeweled on the butt. Hers
yeah.
said naughty, and I'm like
Oh, okay. I
that
could
that that you didn't look.
No, I couldn't tell what it said. It was
Oh,
so quick. I tried to watch, and like I think because on my TV the subtitles are so large,
oh,
Disney
okay.
Plus for whatever reason that's my own issue. But like I kept rewinding it to see what it said, but then I could. It's like so fast. I'm like,
Hmm.
well,
It said
hopefully somebody
naughty.
will catch it. Okay,
It said
that's
naughty. I'm pretty sure that's like
yeah.
foreshadowing. something.
maybe, but that's kind of common for those
It
pants.
is.
It was like it was naughty or whatever. It's like
Or
juicy, like you said, was something.
juicy, yeah, or
Yeah,
like baby and
yeah,
these ridiculous things.
yeah,
Just so people could look at your butt, and I'm like, I'm okay.
yeah. I mean, I appreciate the effort, but like
Of course.
I couldn't read it. So, yeah. Um, so Halloween was the theme of the episode. Let's talk about some of the costumes that the characters are wearing. So
Hmm.
Wanda is dressed like a Sokovian fortune teller, which turns out the look was basically just one of her looks from the comics, like in the
Right.
70s or 80s.
Exactly.
Um, Vision is dressed like a Mexican wrestler, a luchador, if you will, because apparently Wanda has like a thing for that. But also that was just like that red or that green and yellow was just like his look in the comics also.
Yes.
And did you notice the dig he kind of had for her whenever she said, "Oh, you wore that," and he's like, "Well, there weren't any other clothes in my closet." So
Oh,
like him
I didn't
saying
hear
to her,
that.
yeah, it's basically him saying to her, it's like, well, you're in charge of this. Like, there's nothing else for me to wear but this. Obviously, you wanted me to wear this, so
Because she later on when he said he was going to be doing like the patrol or something like that, and she's like, well, you weren't supposed to be doing that. He's like, what
right,
was I supposed to do then? Or like challenging her, like what you're
yeah,
saying about, she's in control of this whole thing, and when he calls her out on it, she's just like, oh, no, no, that's fine, that's okay.
right,
So it's like, it's interesting to see, like, is she truly in control at this point? Was she really ever truly in control? And if she was and now isn't, I mean, could things shift to where maybe Vision takes control? And obviously we're going to talk more about this episode, but like for the last few episodes that remain, could Vision maybe take control of everything?
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Um, but not only does Vision kind of know something's amiss, Pietro definitely knows that this is not a real world, that she's created this
Hmm.
world, and
Yeah. He's
like
very upfront
he
about it.
yeah, he was very interesting in this episode. By the way, he was Pietro and Tommy both dressed like, I guess, like Quicksilver, right? That's what
Yeah.
their costume were. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we learn later on in the episode that Tommy gets the Quicksilver speed powers.
Hmm. He
Um,
does.
and then just a couple other people who were in their costumes. So Herb, the neighbor, is dressed as Frankenstein, which I'm not really sure what that really means, except for, I mean, it seems like he's kind of a mindless character who just does like he's just doing these mundane kind of tasks and
Yeah, I think it could be interpreted that way. Just like, because think about him trying to cut the hedge, and then
right,
he's cutting through like cemented,
right,
brick, whatever you call it, but like maybe not the brightest.
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. So, there's that, and then Agnes was dressed as a witch, which that kind of feeds the theory that Agnes is secretly this Agatha Harkness, who is a
Hmm.
witch in the comic book. So
But you know
we'll
who
see.
we, but you know who we didn't see,
Who's it?
was Norm, and I kind of like want to point this out specifically because in the previous episode we saw that Vision, quote unquote, unlocked the real Norm, right?
Right.
And real Norm was very frantic, like asking about his cell phone. He has to call his sister. He's worried about his dad who's ill. And we didn't see him at all in this episode. So it's like, does he still exist maybe in this world, or has he been removed? Because Vision did reveal to Wanda um that Vision unlocked Norm, right? The other two people that we didn't see were Dottie and her husband, the dude with
Yeah.
a mustache or whatever it is that he has. So I'm again just curious: was it just for runtime, or because I think this episode actually was a little bit longer than the
Yeah.
previous?
Slightly was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, but have we seen Dottie besides? She's been like in two episodes, right?
Dottie. Aside from the first time we saw her, there was
Cuts her hand, and then there's a one where she like walks into a room and she makes a comment to her husband. And,
about her earrings. Do these earrings
yeah,
make me look fat? And that was the episode when Wanda was pregnant.
the
So that was
'70s.
the
So she
70s
was in
episode.
episode 1 and episode 3. And that's all I believe, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, do these people still maybe exist in the world? Do they
Yeah.
not? Because we haven't seen the hearts since I think the second episode. So
Or were
I'm
they
just curious.
they might have been the first episode.
Well, they were, but when they did the talent show thing, we saw Mrs.
Oh,
Hart,
okay.
but we haven't seen Mr. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious if these people still exist in the world or not, because we still don't have answers about what happens to the beekeeper,
No.
um, you know, that kind of thing. But the side note.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like those characters do just kind of progress through the decades with everyone else, you know. So,
Hmm.
um, so those are all the people who are kind of dressed up in costumes. Something else I want to point out about Halloween, it was worth noting how Pietro brought up this point about how, in previous episodes, Visions noted that there's no other children in Westview.
Yep.
So Wanda, to kind of correct that, she, had a ton of kids trick or
A
treating.
ton.
And Pietro noticed that, and he kind of called her out, or he basically said, "Hey, like, I see what you're doing, trying to, cover up for that." And
Hmm.
I don't know what did you think about that whole part of it.
Well, he asked her straight up, like, where did you get all these kids from?
Right,
Like, who, like, in essence, like, where did you kidnap these kids from, right? Like, or are they to a figment of her powers? Did she just create them?
right,
Um, it's it's very disturbing because if you think back to one of our earlier episodes, for watchers, about theories of whether the twins were Wanda's or not, or did she maybe steal them from the real world? Someone who was maybe with child, or were they actually born and she just stole them? I'm definitely beginning to think that these people may be kidnapped in some kind of fashion, but they're not alive, which is really disturbing. And I'm saying that because we know Vision is not alive, and we know Pietro, even this Pietro, is not alive, because we see when Wanda has talked with Vision in previous episodes that she sees him, you know, flash the true state of Vision.
right.
He's ghost eyes, gray gray skin, that kind of thing. And it happened when she was talking to Pietro, when he was asking her about, where did she get the kids from. She looks away and she looks back, and you see the gunshot wounds, um, from Age of Ultron. And again, same ghost out eyes, and it's like, okay, is this kind of like a lost kind of thing? And I can't remember if it was Frank or Nathan who said that they watched Lost, and ultimately everyone had died,
Yeah,
um,
I think
on that plane.
yeah,
And so now that's my question, because I did talk last time about, I think the reason why these people are there is because they've all had some kind of grief, or they're experiencing some kind of trauma. Maybe they're all dead in a weird way.
yeah,
Not in a weird way, but just like maybe they're all dead, or on the verge of dying, or I don't know. It's There are a lot of questions.
yeah. That makes sense to me. I did also like with the exchange with Pietro and Wanda how he mentioned, he's like, it's like he knew. He said, like, I like how you basically, the people you chose to be a part of Westview, they're basically the same kind of people they were out in the real world. They're just like, in some cases they're slightly better. Like,
Hmm.
that was kind of a weird, like,
Observation.
yeah, yeah. It's like, so
Hmm.
he definitely knows what's going on, and then of course he asks her the $1 million question, like, how did you do this? And she
Right.
basically says that she can't explain it. She doesn't know how
Hmm.
she did it. All she remembers is the emptiness and, like, loneliness of her life, and then
Hmm.
I guess she magically manifested this Westview, or someone obviously did it, in her
And
flesh.
on that note, he had said that, because she says she felt loneliness or whatever. He's like, yeah. He goes, I heard you call for me. I heard you say my name, and next thing I know, here I am. So that to me, and I kind of took that to a Harry Potter level. Real quick, I'm gonna deviate, from this WandaVision. So in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part One, there's a scene where the trio, Harry. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they're together. They're trying to, find these Horcruxes to ultimately defeat Voldemort, and there's a rift, right? So Ron decides he's going to leave, um, and eventually he comes back to the trio and tells the story about, I wanted to come back as soon as I left, and he had like this device that he could hear Hermione calling out to Ron, just saying Ron, Ron, and he's like. I clicked the device, the little beam of light came out, and I knew that if I followed it, I'd get back to you. And so I was just like, oh my god, this is a total Harry Potter thing, like, oh, you called out my name, so here I am, kind of thing. I
Yeah.
was like, that's such a rip. But anyway, no, it, I still, obviously, we still have questions about how the hell did Pietro, get here without her knowing. And then you made the point, like, either you or George, he said who he was before she recognized him or questioned who he
Yeah.
was, right? He's like, can a brother, get a,
Yeah.
hug, whatever. And she's like, question mark, Pietro. So still need to find out how the hell he got there. Still obviously need to find out how this whole hex thing
Yeah.
exists, and how and why all these people are there. I just a lot of questions in general.
Yeah. She even asked Pietro early in the episode. She's like, "Why do you look so different?" Like she's confused herself.
Right.
So it does kind of. I think that we're meant to believe her. Like I don't I like while she may have created this world, like I don't think that obviously she did it out of some evil like malice thing. I
Hmm.
don't believe so.
Hmm.
And so I think we're meant to believe that like she doesn't know why this Pietro is in Westview. Just
Right.
like I don't believe she knows why Westview is Westview. Like, well, why did this happen? Besides her trying to create this like fantasy world, where she could
Hmm.
be happy, from
One thing
watching
I
kids or
one
something.
one thing I did like between the two of them as they're walking with the twins, for trick or treating. Um, Wanda, is testing Pietro, like, oh, do you remember when we were kids in the orphanage, and this happened? What was the name of that person? And he's like, ah, you're trying to test me. I see what you're doing. And but he never
Yeah,
answers the question. And then it was the question of, she asked him, well, what happened to your accent? And he goes, what happened to yours? And I absolutely love that point, because throughout Wanda's existence in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've seen her accent, just completely go from full on heavy, Eastern European,
yeah,
um, Slavic type accent to almost non existent. And
yeah.
I just thought that was a great call out.
I feel like by Infinity War she doesn't have an accent at all.
Barely. Barely. Even
Yeah,
even when she emerged from the hex to toss the drone back
right,
to, Sword, it was very, like, just very subtle of
right.
certain words she would say that you could kind of hear the accent, but otherwise, yeah, it's virtually gone.
Yeah,
And I will remain, I will die on this hill of, she wants to be like everyone else. She wants to fit in. She wants to be accepted, because the very fact that, she had caused so much chaos in Lagos, in Civil War, she wanted to barricade herself. She wanted to hide, and just, she didn't want to cause any more chaos. So I think by scaling back the accent, it's a way of, well, if I don't have that accent, then no one will know that I'm not from here. I can just be accepted. See what I'm saying? So
right. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. But I just thought, like I said, I think it was a great call out to address what fans have been saying about Wanda's accent for quite some time.
yeah. So we've talked about Wanda for a while. Let's talk about Vision for a little bit. Let's talk about his kind of story arc in this episode. So it begins, like I said, he's dressed in this green and yellow costume, and like you mentioned earlier, he
Just
like Wanda thinks
hilarious.
he's going trick or treating with the kids because it's their first Halloween, even though they're both like what 10 or whatever, but because they
Right.
age themselves. And he says, "No, no, no, I'm on neighborhood watch. Like I've got an important thing." Like you said, she's like surprised to hear that, and then
Hmm.
so anyway, he's not actually on neighborhood watch. We see that he's obviously very suspicious of what's going on in Westview, and he's looking to figure out, what is Westview,
Right.
and so we see him in the episode at one point where he flies up and kind of gets an aerial view of the town, and he notices that like there are people who are either like stuck in these like robot like motions or people who are
Mhm.
not moving at all on the outer limits of Westview.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, what did you think about that whole part of this episode? Like, he goes and he sees kids who are trick or treating, and they're both just like standing in the yard, not moving. And then there's like a parent next to them, and there's the woman who's like, I think she's like hanging clothes or something, and like she has like her tears coming down her eye, and
I thought that particular scene was very telling because it seemed as if one or two things. Either the husband and wife who are stuck in this kind of repetitive motion, either they were starting to put up decorations or maybe they were starting to take down decorations. I'm going to go with the first. Um,
yeah,
but like the fact that they again were stuck in this motion of she's trying to hang something and then goes back and forth and you see this tear, it's like they're conscious, like they're aware of the state that they're in, it's just they can't break out of it. And it's
right,
it's so it's so hard to pinpoint the true emotion, I feel like, because the fact that sometimes people feel like, oh, I can't control myself. I feel like something or somebody else is controlling what I do. Kind of like a Sims, kind of way of
yeah,
thinking. Like you
that's
walk into a room and you're like, why did I walk in here? You walk back out, right? But this is just like they're forever stuck in this state.
right,
And again, they're aware of it and they can't break out of it. And what can they do? Nothing. So for the fact that Vision is now going beyond um, the limits of what Westview is, the square or whatever, because Wanda does say to the twins at one point
right,
when Tommy realizes he has super speed, that they can't go beyond Ellis Avenue.
right,
And so that's pretty that's an important fact, because when Vision does, he changes out of his costume to his actual Vision, suit, um, rises into the air like you see, and he sees that okay, over here it's all bright, whatever, but it gradually gets darker, right? And so
right.
he looks, supervision, right? He looks and he sees there's a car stuck, not stuck, but just stopped at a stop
It's
sign.
idled at a stop sign. Yeah,
Exactly. And he flies over and sees it's Agnes. It's Agnes in the witch's costume, as you said. She's, behind the wheel, and she's just kind of got this like glazed, dazed look on her face. And he's very weary, like, what's going on here? And he's looking out past what she's looking at. It's just an open field, you know?
yeah,
And I want to get your take on this, because the fact that for so long we've been talking about how we think she's playing a bigger role than what we're seeing at this point. So when Vision actually is talking to her and she's just like, oh, got lost, took a wrong turn, blah blah blah, and he kind of zaps her out of the Westview state of mind,
right,
and she turns to him and says, I know who you are, you're Vision, you're an Avenger.
right.
And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What was your take on that? Just, is
Yeah,
she genuinely like, I need help, or is she playing the game?
I don't think. I mean, I know everyone thinks that she's this evil person. I don't necessarily believe that because I think that, like I was saying earlier, at some point you kind of have to believe what the characters are saying because
Hmm.
if off screen they have ulterior motives, that's kind of bad writing. You know what I mean? Like, because you could do that with anything. You do,
Yeah.
like you don't, if you don't, show or tell the story, then how's the audience? They're not going to figure it out, and it's like to me to have like a turn like that would be kind of weird, especially off screen.
Kind of a cop out.
Yeah, it's a cop out.
Yeah.
It's pretty lazy. But yeah, that whenever she said you're an Avenger, and he goes, she's like, "You're Vision. You're here to help." And he's like, "Yes, I'm Vision. I want to help, but well, what's an Avenger?" It was like, wow, like it's like maybe if his body was obviously taken by sword, maybe they obviously his head was crushed in, but maybe there's some like swipe or they reprogrammed him or something to where he has no memory of anything at
I
all.
kind of
Maybe I'm sure they wanted to repurpose him. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. I think the theory
yeah,
that George shared about maybe the reason why Vision was disassembled in Sword was to maybe weaponize him, which would make
right,
a lot of sense. But the very fact that Vision Vision knows who he is because of what Wanda has done, presumably, has more or less resurrected him, and she's telling him, "Oh, this is who you are. You're my husband. You love me." Da 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 da. That's all he knows on the surface. He doesn't know anything from the past because, as we know, the Mind Stone was destroyed. So
right,
any memories whatsoever would have been destroyed with that Mind Stone. So basically, Vision is just the vessel. He's nothing without the Mind Stone, albeit
yep,
he's got one that's in the show. So, but I'm still worried, not worried, but just concerned with the whole Agnes thing. Is she just going to play it up and then maybe just flip on them? Where
maybe
maybe
so.
maybe she's the true mastermind behind all of this, but she wants to see like what are the capabilities of Vision, or what are the capabilities of Wanda, like how far can she push before someone breaks, you know what I mean?
Right.
So but yeah, that
Well,
scene was really interesting because it seemed like Agnes started going a little crazy.
right. You kind of see three versions of her. You see her in Westview character,
Hmm.
which when Vision touches her head, then it's like you kind of what I believe is like the real her because she asks
Hmm.
Vision, she's like, "Am I dead?" And he's like incredulous, and she's like, because you are.
Hmm.
And then she repeats dead several times. And then after that, like you said, like she continues to talk, and you're right. She goes from being like what I think is supposed to be like a reliable narrator of the story to this maniacal person. She starts cackling and talking about how whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then he touches her head again, and she snaps right back into the Westview character, and she's like, "Okay, okie dokie, neighbor." And then she does a U-turn,
Yep.
and then heads back to the town square or whatever. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was really interesting because, like you said, it's basically three personalities that we've seen out of one person.
right?
And it's with her, it's going to be very hard to tell, like, who is, aside from the Westview, Agnes, who is the real person that is Agnes? Is it the person who's begging for help, or is it the person who's, maniacal, that kind of thing? Because that maniacal laugh was just crazy. It's like she was cackling as a witch, dead, ah
Right,
ha ha, ha, dead, dead, dead,
right,
and it kind of further goes back into my question of, is everyone in this town dead?
exactly.
So
I think there's a decent chance they are. I mean,
I'm gonna have very mixed feelings if that's the direction that they're
but
going.
then we do know that people can enter the hex and then exit the hex and still be living. Living
True,
going in, living going in. So I
true.
don't know. We'll
Because
see. One good thing about Marvel is they
Wanda's
will.
living for sure, as far as we
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, like Monica Rambeau, and
Hmm.
that's a good transition. Before we get to because Vision has a big part at the end of the episode, but before that, let's touch on some other characters. And
Yeah.
so there's a scene that I think's a pretty strong scene early in the episode where Tyler Hayward, the director of Sword, he's kind of dressing down Monica for, he's like, hey, since you've come back from the blip, you've shown nothing but like just devotion to these superpowered beings. And he basically kicks Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy Woo off the base. And he's like, you're off the mission, you're off my base.
Yeah.
And he had a really strong quote about what life's been like since the blip. You people that left still have the luxury of optimism. You have no idea what it was like, what it took to keep the lights on.
Hmm.
I thought that was a pretty powerful thing that,
State of Texas might learn a thing or two
right,
from that
right,
statement.
right.
Sorry,
No, that
just
works
had to
perfect.
do it.
I think that blip stuff is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like ever since it happened, like I've always thought that was really interesting. So to get someone's perspective of like, hey, like For the people who were here, it was hell. I mean, we saw that in Endgame with Captain America, and he's going to support groups and stuff like that. So, but
Yeah, but hindsight, I mean, it was no picnic for these people that were in the blip to come back and
no, but I
come to
think
find
they
out that, their loved ones are dead and they didn't get a
right.
chance to say goodbye, or they're, when Scott Lang, was able to find, well, a little bit different, but when he came out of the quantum realm, it's 5 years later and he's like, what the hell happened out here? What happened to his family? And it's, again, it's no picnic for those that were involved,
Yeah,
just as
exactly.
it was no picnic for the people who weren't involved. I mean, yes, you're talking two different perspectives, two different lives, but to adjust from the last moment that you can recall to, you know, being going back to that same moment, but everything's changed. Like that's whiplash. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no amount of time that's going to allow for these people to adjust and be okay.
but the thing about the people who were involved in the blip, who were blipped out, they were gone for 5 years in reality, but in their personal physical time, they were only gone for like 30 minutes.
Right.
So
Exactly.
they didn't have the same experience that people who were left behind.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing, and it's something I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel does a series in the future that's just about like
A blip.
that 5 year period, because there's a lot of I think there's a lot of interesting storylines that you can kind of mine from people who were adjacent to other characters who were gone, or
Well, to find out from the perspective of the people who were gone, right? A lot of, the secondary Avengers, if you will, and then, Monica Rambeau and what have you. Like, is it just existing in a state of nothingness? Like look back at Game of Thrones when Jon Snow died, and then he came back, right? Because of the Red Woman. She asked him, like, what did you see? What was it like? And he goes, nothing, just
right,
endless nothingness.
right.
So it would be interesting to see that kind of perspective of what the people that were involved in the blip, went through, if there was anything.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. There probably wasn't. I think there.
Probably not, but
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking
Um,
Marvel here, if they want to make a storyline out of that, I mean,
oh
they'll
yeah,
do it and people will watch it. Hello.
yeah. And they can make it work because they'll always kind of make it make sense and explain stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so back to Monica and Darcy and Jimmy Woo. So they're kicked off the base. Well, at least we think so. And then like literally 2 minutes later, Monica and Jimmy Woo like take out the soldiers that are escorting them off the base,
Hmm.
knock them out, take their guns, take their uniforms,
Yeah.
and now Monica and Jimmy Woo have the plan to they want to re-enter the hex
Yeah.
to I guess try to communicate with Wanda in some way, and
Yes.
that's where we learn like Darcy, she's a computer hacker genius, so she learns that this whole time they've been tracking Vision,
Hmm.
Sword, as in Sword has been tracking him, and I guess that kind of leads up to the big part of the episode where Vision tries to escape the hex.
Right. So
Yeah.
when he stopped to talk to Agnes at that stop sign, we see that he's at Ellis Avenue, the place where Wanda had said to the twins not to go beyond. So Vision, being of his own person, decides he's going to go see what's beyond. Because as I said, it's an open field, and as he's walking, you can see the force field, the hex, the energy, whatever, and he's approaching it. And once he approaches it, and he's starting to, immerse himself into it, it's as if it was resisting him, but he's still going to push forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's setting off red flags
It's
for,
ripping him apart.
yeah.
Like as he tries to break through the barrier of the hex,
Hmm.
he's almost fully through, but it's
Hmm.
tearing off pieces of his
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Exactly. And the fact that that's setting off red flags for Sword, the campsite that's out there. And like you said, they've been monitoring Vision, and so Hayward and Darcy, of course, separate locations, can see, okay, well, the dot's moving. He's gonna come through, and they're gonna try to, I guess, try to talk to him. And when Hayward does see that Vision is really trying to push through the hex, he makes the comment of like, wow, he really wants out of there. And I thought that was really interesting because it's like, you know, I'm still not convinced he's totally a good guy. I don't know if maybe he allowed for Vision's body to be taken or not, if he's in cahoots with Agnes, or he's just got his own agenda. But
Right.
he seemed a little too thrilled with what was happening. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. How did you take that scene?
Yeah, it was kind of strange. You're right. He kind of like toes the line between like a military man, but also with like bad guy vibes.
Mad
So
scientist like.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, and the fact that they don't try to help Vision at all, like that
Hmm.
definitely spells that not a good guy. Um,
Yeah.
but I think also a bad guy thing is for them to. Darcy's on the scene and she notices it and she's like, "Hey, like y'all should help him." And she's running toward Vision, and one of the soldiers grabs her and handcuffs her to one of the vehicles,
Oh
so
God.
she can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then whenever, uh, you know, well, I don't want to skip ahead, but Vision he's trying to fight to stay alive or to get out of the
Hmm.
bubble. Billy, his son, who Tommy developed the
Well,
speed.
first,
Yeah, go ahead.
before that, because Vision is trying to get out of the hex, but he's not saying a whole heck of a lot other than the fact that they're people and they're like help the people kind of thing. Like he's obviously trying to break out, right? But he's begging for these people, sword, to help what's going on inside.
Right. Help. Yeah.
Um,
Right, yeah.
yeah, and then like you're saying, the twins are, it's Halloween. They've been trick or treating. We saw that Tommy has learned he's got super speed, and Billy's gonna come into his own. So take it away.
Yeah. So Billy he basically developed the powers that Wanda has,
Hmm.
from what I can tell. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I won't say it's spot on. I don't know if, at least I don't think we've seen really, other than when Pietro died, that Wanda has the, you know telepathy, or is it telepathy, which is the one that you can read minds? I can
I think
never
it's
remember. Okay.
telepathy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because obviously she's got the telekinesis powers to manipulate objects and move things with her mind. But as far as I'm aware, we haven't really seen if she's able to like read people's minds or feel what they're feeling, right? So
Right.
Billy seems to have that ability to hear, things farther away, or feel what his father is feeling.
Right.
Um, because he runs to his mom and says there's something wrong, there's something wrong with dad, like, it's like he's dying or something. And Pietro makes a comment. Oh my God, it was such a heartless comment, in my
Right.
opinion. Um, Go ahead if you want to share that, Justin. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah. He basically kind of interrupts and he says, "Hey, it's not like your dead husband can die twice." And then Wanda just turns and like hits him with the red power hands, whatever you call it. She
Hmm.
like shoots him right into like this like fake Halloween like graveyard.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of crazy how quickly she just like did that.
she
I mean,
reacted. Well,
right?
and let's face it, Vision has died twice.
Yeah,
the
he
first
has.
time, uh, the first attempt was by Wanda herself, because that's what he wanted her to do, to destroy the Mind Stone. And Thanos obviously reversed time so that he could, yank it out of Vision's head. So Vision essentially did die twice. Now this would be maybe the third time, if you will. So third time's a charm, right? Maybe he'll actually stay dead. Um, but it was such a really interesting line, because of the fact that Pietro's been calling out stuff as it is, right? Everything that we've been questioning here on the outside as the audience, like he's actually, you know, addressing it in the show, right? And she doesn't have a whole lot of answers to give him about how all this started, or why all this started, other than the feeling of loneliness.
Right.
But that comment of your dead husband can't die twice, the very fact that he's addressing that Vision is dead,
Mm.
and you know, like, hey, don't worry about it kind of attitude, like that obviously struck a chord. Like it still strikes a chord with Wanda, you
Yeah.
know. Um, it was an intense moment.
Yep. And then after she does that, she turns up the intensity level even more because then she pauses everyone in Westview, and then she starts expanding the hex.
Hmm.
So basically, because Vision was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 steps outside of the hex, she's expanding the hex to where he is now in, back in the hex. And I mean, she's expanding it rapidly. And
Yeah.
Darcy, who of course is handcuffed to a vehicle near Vision, she's engulfed by the hex. So now, what is she going to be in the
Right.
Westview? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm
Everyone else
sure we'll
is,
find out next episode.
yeah, everyone else is escaping, and we do see what's happening with many of these sword personnel, if you will. The campsite has turned into like a circus fairgrounds,
Right.
and many of these people are turning into clowns, or
Clowns. Yeah.
other things. And yeah, we don't know what's in store for Darcy, but we do know that Hayward, with his driver, is trying to escape the growth of the hex, and he's on the walkie trying to get in touch with someone. And Monica Rambeau and Jimmy Woo, they're going to go meet the aerospace engineer who's going to help hopefully get Monica back into the hex,
Right.
so she can do whatever she needs to do with Wanda. And they're trying to step on it and escape the expansion. So to pick up on such a cliffhanger, honestly. I mean,
Right.
it was a great cliffhanger. Um, to find out what's going to happen to these characters. I can't wait for Darcy to be in the show because she's just so like she's just witty, she's funny, she's smart, obviously. And is she going to be able to approach Wanda? Is she going to be able
Yeah.
to talk any sense into anyone? You know what I mean? Or is she going to be sucked into this alternative reality like Monica was? Or is Darcy smarter than this and going to be able to break through it?
Well, I wonder because the show skipped the 90s and went to the 2000s, the next decade's the 2010s, right? Well, in the 2010s, the actress that plays Darcy Lewis played a waitress in a show called Two Broke Girls. So
Yep,
I wonder if we're going to find her in a waitress outfit
that would be
in
hilarious.
episode 7. Like
That would
I
be
think there's a
hilarious.
I think there's a decent chance of that happening. I feel like
You think so?
it's almost set up too perfectly for that to be part of it. So she's
Man,
going to be a waitress at some local cafe that they go to eat, and then I don't know, the family's eating, and Darcy's there. So
oh man, that would be funny. I actually hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point. That would be really just charming to see her back in that role.
yeah,
But no, I mean, true. I still want to find out. Obviously, hopefully, we will. Who that aerospace engineer is. I know that there were theories in our last week's episode for Watchers. I think Frank or George was saying something about someone from Fantastic Four, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, it would be Mr. Fantastic, it'd be Reed
There you go.
Richards, but I think that's too big of a character because
You think?
I mean they're doing the Fantastic Four movie in a
Mm-hmm.
few years.
Mm-hmm.
The rumors have been that John Krasinski is going to play Mr. Fantastic. I can't see them debuting Mr. Fantastic in WandaVision. I just don't see that happen. And maybe they could, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be awesome. I mean,
Listen, if it is John Krasinski playing Mr. Fantastic and he breaks the fourth wall with the gym,
right.
I'm gonna
That
die. I'm gonna lose it.
that would be perfect too, because obviously The Office like started in like the mid 2000s, but it really
Hmm.
hit like in the late or in the 2010s is when it was really super
Yeah,
popular. So
yeah.
um, that would be. I didn't think about that. That'd be awesome to do. I think that if they are going to see Reed Richards, it might be a case where they go to like his office or they go somewhere, but we don't ever see the character. You know what I mean? Like,
Who knows? Yeah, if whatever
you
equipment
know,
it was that he's working on, and he just like leaves a note or something, still keep it
right,
like very, I don't know, ambiguous.
right, right. I
Um,
could see that being more likely
yeah,
than to have um, John Krasinski like reveal that he's Mr. Fantastic
that'd be crazy.
in the WandaVision. But who knows? I mean, WandaVision's been pretty awesome so far, and that would definitely be a huge surprise. Probably a bigger surprise than the X-Men Pietro joining
Yeah,
the show. So
yeah, and then the fact that obviously with Vision trying to exit the hex, it was literally
oh
tearing him
yeah,
apart. It was almost like the whole Thanos thing all over again with the snap and everyone like just deteriorating. What's obviously what's in store for him in the next episode?
well,
Is it going to be addressed, or
right,
are they just going to just pretend like it never
right.
happened? Or
They just wake up in the 2010s and whatever show they're
right,
doing. Yeah,
yeah. This show again, we've talked about this. It was a little bit of a slow burn with the first one or two episodes. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
oh yeah,
I know some people were just like, I don't know if this is like the right way to start this off, but the very fact that the story has developed the way it's developed, it's kept your interest. It's again, they're doing a really great job addressing questions that they knew the audience would have.
yeah,
And just those funny little digs and things like that. Um, One thing I was going to ask you, Justin, was what was it? What was the commercial? Remind me what the
yeah.
commercial
I was going
was.
to talk about that. Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
couple of things I wanted. So before we get that real quick, I just want to point out that like the episode ends on Wanda's red eyes. I thought that was a
Hmm.
cool kind of scene as she's expanding the hex. But yeah, there's a couple of things I want to touch on, and the commercial was one of them.
I
It
remember
was
now.
called Yo Magic, the
Good.
snacks for survivors. It was like a yogurt commercial, but it was very dark and like had these like claymation figures, and
Yeah.
it did seem very like 90s 2000s ish.
Yeah.
Did
No, because
you did you
I
like that
remember
yogurt?
that commercial.
Okay,
I remember I don't remember if I actually ate the yogurt, but I remember
okay,
that commercial um all those years ago, and I'm like, wow, like they dug deep.
yeah.
I say deep, but that's from my childhood. But
See, I don't remember that. I mean,
oh, I do.
I don't remember it. So
Listen, if you watched Nickelodeon like I did growing up, you saw that commercial all the
yeah,
time.
okay,
But yeah, no, I remember. But yeah, it took a really dark spin because you're talking about this boy that's on a deserted island, and the shark pops up and says, "Yo, like here, have this yogurt, whatever." And the boy is trying to just tear off that lid, and he
right.
can't like get that grip. And then time passes. You see the sun and then the moon, and the kid is like growing older and older and older until there's skeletal remains. And I'm like, this was really dark.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty,
again, is this foreshadowing the fact that everyone in Westview is dead, or they're going to stay there until they die?
I think so.
I don't know. It's just very, very dark. Very, very dark.
Yeah, I think so. Um,
Yeah.
one other thing I wanted to point out: did you notice there was a scene where Wanda and Uncle P, as Pietro calls himself, they're walking with the kids and they're walking away from a movie theater. Did you notice which movies were showing?
I did. It was The Parent Trap
The
and The
Incredibles.
Incredibles. Yes,
Both
I
of
did.
those movies are set to where kids are the heroes in the movies.
Hmm.
So I wonder if that has a meaning with you now have these
Yeah.
superpowered kids. Are they going to save Wanda and Vision somehow?
I would. I would hope so. I mean, I feel that. Well, first off, I think both those movies kind of came out within the same decade, or just
Oh no, no.
no, they were different. But
The
anyway,
original Parent Trap came out like in the '60s,
yeah. But the Lindsay Lohan one came out, like
'93. I
90.
looked it up. Yeah,
Was it
'93.
93?
Yeah, and then
Wow.
The Incredibles came out in like 2000 something, 2002 maybe or
Okay, so
2000.
it's within a decade of each other. Let's give or
Yeah,
take.
but yeah,
But yeah. So with the Parent Trap, obviously the twins they
Right.
try to get their divorced parents back together. And yeah, they're definitely like the heroes of the story. um I'm hoping that the twins will definitely play a bigger role and help make Wanda see the error of her ways, if
Right.
she's truly the one who's in control. um if it's someone else or an organization outside of them, like, yeah, I definitely would hope that, twins would be the saviors in so many words to help bring back balance. Help Wanda see that, yes, you love Vision, but he's not here. Like, you have us, love us, don't be psycho.
Right.
So I don't know. Well, we'll see.
Okay. Did you have any other thoughts on the episode you want to point out, or anything comes to mind?
The way, like, we talked about it at the top of the show with the Malcolm in the Middle kind of intro, the theme song, the just the panning of the cameras, it was very reminiscent. It was just really well done, and I really like the fact that it was being told from like the kids' perspectives. Right, you're starting off with Billy, and it's Halloween, and I'm dressed as this, and you know Tommy, he asked Tommy, what are you dressed as? He's like, oh, I'm the cool twin. Well, what does that make me? Like,
Right.
typical sibling
Yeah.
banter. And I just thought that was really sweet. That was really cute. Um, I love the fact that, the kids were having more of spotlight than just Wanda. But again, like I've said it, the acting in this show is just phenomenal. Like they're all doing
Yeah.
such a great job. um, the Uncle P thing, with Pietro being added to the mix of that comedic, you know,
Right. He's a man
addition.
child. They point out.
A
Yeah.
man child. Yes, that's exactly right. How the boys thought that he was like a vampire. And he, plays into that. It was just really sweet. It was really great. Um, I'm very curious if he's going to remain, for the rest of the show,
Yeah.
or because of what he said, to Wanda is going to maybe alter, his time at Westview. I don't know. Um, I'm very, very excited that I think it's the last three episodes
Right.
are going to be an hour long each. So we're going to definitely get more info,
Yeah.
more action, I hope, and just great storytelling. I'm really excited for Friday, and I'm hoping, God willing, still have power, still have the internet to be able to watch this. If not, just putting that out there, everyone will probably be delayed on our next episode of
Yeah.
Watchers. Um, but yeah, no, this show is great. I mean, what was your takeaway from this episode?
Yeah. I loved it. I love every episode of the show. Like I just love how it continues to kind of unravel the story and mystery of all of it. I'm
Hmm.
just here for the ride. I mean, I enjoy it. I don't. Yeah. It's it's really. I mean, the creativity they have and how they've kind of woven this story through all these like
Hmm.
sitcoms and eras of sitcoms, and
Yeah.
I'm just really impressed. And I'm looking forward to see. We're getting close to a resolution, I would believe, or maybe
Hmm.
something that leads to one of the movies, whether it be Spider-Man 3 or Doctor Strange or
Hmm.
whatever is next in this storyline. Because I don't believe that Loki or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier are going to have anything to do with this series outside of just being in the same universe. But that's it. Like they won't.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that the final episode of WandaVision is going to lead directly into the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter
Right.
Soldier. So
Well, and then to pick up, for Winter Soldier, like how much time has passed since, Cap went back to put back the stone and then to
yeah,
live out his life. How much time has passed then? And then with Loki again, like what's the time frame? What is it going to pick up from when he vanished, when they went back in time in Endgame, or is
yes,
it going to
I
be
believe
in
so.
this? Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah, like those time periods, if they're all going to be different or all within the same time, like how is that all going to fit into a bigger
yeah.
a bigger picture? You know,
I think
so
Falcon and Winter Soldier are going to be the same time period. But I don't think the stories will overlap at all. They're
that makes sense.
intersect or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know,
So
I'm just excited to finish out this one, and then we're going to get into Falcon, and then I rewatched the trailer, the long trailer for it the other day, and
Yeah,
I'm like, man, it's gonna be so good. It's just gonna
yeah,
look good. Their chemistry together is just gonna be great, and I'm so thrilled for it. And then Loki, Tom Hiddleston. I mean, just the man's brilliant.
yeah. I'm looking forward to both the shows. I think they'll
Hmm.
be, it's going to be fun. I mean, I don't think. I think WandaVision of all the kind of new projects, no, maybe not all of them, but all the ones that we knew were coming out either in 2020 or 2021, I think it had the least hype and the least like people were, not as excited about it. And
Eh,
so it's
yeah,
delivered so strongly that it's like, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is next, is the one I probably want to watch the most. And
yeah,
like,
definitely.
it's like, wow, if it's better than the WandaVision, like that's gonna be amazing if they can top
Hmm.
WandaVision. So
But given the fact that WandaVision, like you said, didn't really have all that hype or the
right,
following, I think a lot of people had a lot of questions, of course, like, well, how are they going to make this when Vision is dead?
right,
How is, it definitely raised a lot of questions and maybe piqued some people's interest. And
yeah, it's all a mystery.
it, but they do a good job to kind of hook you and then to reel you in, right? So,
Yeah,
Kevin Feige and the people at Marvel are just they're doing an outstanding job with what they've been given,
yeah,
the adaptations of these comics. And yes, obviously they have to tweak, but it still makes sense. Like they're making it make sense. It's
yeah,
coming together very well.
yep.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm just
Me too.
excited.
We're in the same boat. We're in the same boat. Fortunately, I have no water right now with my boat, but
I
you
knew
got
you were going to
water,
say
so that's
that.
good. Yeah,
I knew you
yeah,
were going to say that.
yeah. So, Brittany, we just a couple other quick little items. Well, first off, what have you? I mean, you've had power the whole time. What have you been watching? Have you been watching anything lately that you want to highlight?
God, as horrible as this is going to be, John actually was watching Justice League.
Oh, well, that'll tie into something else I was going to mention. Go ahead.
God. Yeah, no. So, like I said earlier, our internet has kind of been spotty.
Yeah,
So not being able to access Disney Plus or like Vudu or things like that, you go back to old school, old school ways. So we have the Blu-ray,
yeah,
and he's been watching it. I'm just like, this is just a terrible, terrible movie, right? Um, but in reality, I really haven't been watching a whole lot. I've actually been crafting.
okay.
Justin, I enjoy crafting. As
You're very
everyone,
good at it.
well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. I've been crafting Harry Potter themed ornaments. It's been going very well. And because obviously, with work, um, we're not working because of inclement weather. School for me has also been pushed back for about a week, which is
yeah,
nice. So just taking that mental break and doing something I enjoy has been fun. So yeah, not much TV watching or movie watching, but we have my parents here, of course, and they've been, also utilizing, TV and whatnot. So, yeah, no, I rather be crafting.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I would
Um,
ask you the same question, but I know you've really been without.
no, but I have watched a few things, and I wanted to point
Okay.
out that on last week's episode, Frank was really like touting the show Titans, the DC
Yep.
universe, which is now on HBO Max show.
Hmm.
And I checked it out. I've almost finished the first season. It's really good. I really enjoy it.
That's good.
And then also there was another Marvel project that dropped last week on Disney Plus. It's called Marvel Behind the Mask.
Hmm.
It's a little kind of mini documentary. I checked it out this morning. I thought it was pretty good. It's kind of
Hmm.
about the hero, like all the Marvel, or not all the Marvel heroes, but some of the heroes, kind of their backstory and how the character under the mask is more important than the mask. Whether it be Peter Parker or Steve Rogers, those people
Hmm.
are more important than Captain America and Spider Man in a sense. So it's an entertaining watch.
Okay, I'll have to
I
check it
enjoy
out.
it. It's about an hour, and the thing I liked about it the most is it kind of shows kind of the history of the Marvel comics. It shows like the graphical history of it, and it's
Nice.
if for no other reason you should just watch it to see how cool the comic stuff looks. So it's pretty cool to watch. So
Nice.
So I checked that out. And then transitioning from what you said that John's been watching, the first official story trailer for the Snyder Cut dropped on
Good.
Valentine's Day, I think it was. It's Sunday. So yeah, Valentine's Sunday. Um, have you seen it?
No.
No. Okay. I didn't think so. I sent it to the group and I didn't. No one really kind of had anything to say, so I figured I was the only one. But I watched it and um, you know what? Like, I think it's going to be better than the original. Obviously, the original was a mess because it was different people's visions and it was, kind of a Frankenstein of a movie, just kind of slapped together to put it out
Chicken
there.
salad. Chicken salad.
Yeah, exactly. But chicken salad's good though.
If you say
So
so.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people like chicken salad. Um, but the thing about the movie, or the thing about the trailer, is the big talking point is the fact that we see Superman in the black suit. Everybody's
Hmm.
freaking out because you know the. I mean, it's cool, but like, it's also one of the things that I hate about Superman. And I'm a big Superman fan, but I hate that like the people who have tried to bring Superman to the big screen and to different adaptations, it's like they don't totally get the character, and so what they do is like, well, Superman's not cool. He's a Boy Scout, so let's make him cool by we'll give him a black suit. Then he's dark like Batman, and
He goes,
you know,
I am vengeance.
right. And like in the comics, Superman died in the '90s, and when he came back, he was wearing the black suit. So I understand that.
Hmm.
Um, and the few things in the trailer where they show him, and it looks cool. I mean, I'm gonna watch the movie. Like I said, I think it'll be better than the original. That's not a high bar to clear though. So, but yeah, still, it's gonna be a 4-hour movie, and so that's gonna be hard to get through, I think.
Mm-mm. No.
But
Pass.
I
Hard
do
pass.
want to point out, like, I've been pretty positive with this trailer because I actually enjoyed it, but the music was rough. The music was like it was like taking itself way too seriously, like epic, hyped up level of movie, and it's like this movie is not that. Like this movie is not like the Avengers because I mean it was a commercial failure. I mean the other
Yeah.
movies are failures. That's the reason why he was taken off that movie. So, uh, but I'm looking forward to it. I still want to see it. I'll
Okay.
give it a chance. Like I hope it's good and I hope I'm wrong. Honestly, because like I don't want to waste 4 hours of my life hate watching something. I'd rather enjoy it. So I'm looking
I,
forward
I've
to watching it.
I've seen you in your hate kind of
Yeah.
watching
Oh, like
environment. It's not good.
no, no, but I don't prefer to hate watch. I like to if I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch something, I want to like it. So
No. For sure.
so I'm gonna give the Snyder Cut a shot on March 18th when it drops. So
Okay.
yeah.
There is
So
something I wanted to
but
quickly kind of just address. I don't know if we want to really dive into it, but the day that we um, recorded our last Watchers, there was some big news that dropped that evening in the fashion of someone being let go from a very big production called The Mandalorian.
okay.
So Gina Carano, who
Yeah.
was Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, was released, was fired by Lucasfilms for her personal tweets. Again, not going to go really into it. Just to quickly ask, do you think it was the right call?
Um, I think that in this country, we have free speech, right?
Sure.
But you can't say just anything, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, you can say almost anything, but then there's also repercussions for what you say.
Hmm.
And she works by working for Star Wars and Disney, like you work for one of the biggest corporations in the world. And her comments were, I mean, they're just stupid, honestly. Like what she said is really dumb.
Out of line.
And yeah, and it's just like I don't really understand her point because it was really dumb, and she basically got herself fired. So
Yeah.
I don't have any remorse. I don't feel bad for her. I mean, um, I don't think she's a very good actress personally. I don't think it's a huge loss. I really don't. Like I don't
No,
like
I'm not
that
disagreeing.
show, The Mandalorian. It's not that great, honestly. Like
No.
it's. I mean, it had one super cool moment and a couple other cool moments, but it's, you know, it kind of boring and like. I mean, she's not. I mean, she was a UFC fighter, or
Yeah.
she was an MMA fighter,
Yeah.
and she's transitioned to movies, and she's been in Deadpool, and she's done some cool stuff. But and maybe she'll get better, but her character is pretty wooden, and maybe that's just her acting ability. And I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna miss the character, and I don't feel sorry for her because like she kind of brought it on herself. Like
Yeah.
you have to be
I,
smart.
I feel that her character in the show would not make or break the show. Like if the show decided to never include
Sure.
her to begin with, it still would be the show that it is.
No, and
I
they
don't
could recast her, or they could just get rid of the
not
character, and it won't
exactly.
matter either way. Yeah,
Exactly. I feel that, um, like you said, they could either recast her or not, and the show is going to continue either way. It's Star Wars, for God's sakes. I mean, you're talking about like one of the biggest franchises to ever, exist.
yeah,
In respect to obviously the firing, I feel it was warranted because, as you said, when you work for a corporation as large as Disney, Lucasfilms, whatever. Um, yes, we everyone has the right to their freedom of speech, but that doesn't give you the freedom of no consequences.
right,
So take it as you will. If I were to go to my personal Facebook page or Twitter or
right.
Instagram and start ranting and saying things that were just hateful, horrible, whatever. And this day and age, everyone has their phone in their hand. They're going to screenshot it and send it to my employer
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, your employee is saying this and this.
Well, we see
This
that.
person is representing the organization, okay?
Right.
And you say that, you put your info out there saying like, "Hey, I work here." Guess what? To protect themselves, they're going to drop you,
Yep.
okay? I likened it. What happened to Gina Carano? I likened it to Johnny Depp. Different circumstances altogether, period. But Warner Brothers still decided to part ways with Johnny Depp, right? Because
Right.
of what had happened with his trial, with Amber Heard, et cetera, et cetera. And Johnny respected it. He said, "Hey, I get it. I get where you're coming from. However, this isn't over. Like, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to prove that, blah, 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 blah."
Right.
But he still took the firing, you know, and took the high road, if you will. For Gina's reactions about what's been going on and what have you, I think I saw someone comment about it saying, like, this is obviously someone who's never been held accountable for anything. And the fact that she got called out for her comments, it's, I have to agree with that.
Yep.
We have the right to our freedom of speech, but it's not the same as you're not going to have any consequences or repercussions, as you said. I
Yep.
mean,
That's
I
just life.
that's just life. Yeah,
Everybody's
exactly.
got a boss, and if you work for the mouse, you have to play under the mouse's rules. Okay. I mean,
Exactly.
that's just the way it goes. So
Exactly. Well, she supposedly got picked up by someone. They're going to cast her as a star of a movie called Abhorrent because Lucasfilms made the statement saying that she made some abhorrent remarks, and they're going to take that and run with it. All right, whatever.
good luck.
Yeah, go on with go on with your bad self. Like,
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, no one ever in this lifetime is ever going to agree on every single topic or every single policy, blah, blah, blah. Um, Ultimately, just be a decent human being. Don't be a
Yeah.
shithead. Don't try to say that your life or political atmosphere or whatever is likened to that of something that you've actually never experienced, such as the Holocaust. Like, my
Right.
uncle, who was actually in the Holocaust, would be turning in his grave if he heard someone today saying, "Oh, my life is like that of those who went through the Holocaust." fuck you.
Yeah, yeah.
Ultimately, you don't know. You have no idea what.
And there's also a level of like, The Rock used to always say when he's a wrestler, know your damn role. And that's
Thank
where
you.
it's like, Gina Carano, know your, because like, okay, spoiler alert, life is not fair, right? Certain people can do certain things and others can't, right? If you're Gina Carano, if you're the, what, fourth or third, fifth lead on that show, like, you're just not as important as
Yeah.
the star of the show. Like, you
Which
kind
is
of got to know
Baby
your
Yoda.
right. You've got to know your place in the world, and that you can't get away with certain things.
Yeah.
So
This has
it's
nothing
like I
to
said,
do. This has
yeah.
nothing to do with like her race or her sex or whatever oriented. It has nothing
I
to
mean,
do
what
with
is
that.
her race? Is she
I
a
don't care.
white
I
woman? I
don't
mean, yeah,
care.
I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, yeah,
If she is, okay, that's adding fuel to many people's fires. But like beside all that, like to try to liken your stripes or
your
whatever
plight in the
to
world with
exactly with something
yeah,
that you have no idea what that time was like.
right,
It's a stretch, and it's a stretch that you're not going to win that argument. You're never going to win that argument. That's like copping out. It, how I see it, like, oh, you're treating me like like just trash, or whatever. It's a cop out. It's
yeah,
horrible.
and that's the thing. Is like I feel like she brought all this all on herself.
You
Like
did, and
I
you
don't know
have to
like
deal with
what
those consequences.
you know, I guess it was cancel culture or whatever is
Yeah.
that was what she was responding to. But I mean, everyone does the cancel culture thing. Remember, like whenever just a year or so ago, 2 years ago, whenever Kaepernick had that big Nike campaign, right? There were
Mm-hmm.
people burning their Nikes, or like
Oh,
there was a guy who was like cutting the Nike symbol off his sock, and he cut his like ankle or something. It's like I mean,
yeah.
that's cancel culture too. It's just like
Yeah.
you're canceling stuff. I mean, people do it both ways, and
Yeah.
like I
It's
said, Regina
crazy. It's like
Carano,
it's like okay, just because you don't like something or it doesn't agree with your views or whatever,
right,
you're gonna go to this extreme of I'm gonna burn my jersey because Tom Brady left the Patriots to go to Tampa
right,
Bay and he still won a freaking Super Bowl.
yeah,
Like that's so like it's so dumb. Like why? I don't get it.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I don't get it either. I think people get themselves in trouble on social media so often, and this is obviously a case of that because she was. I mean, I think she was on Twitter, right? She was on
Yeah.
Twitter, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Or Instagram, one of the two. Yeah. What
okay. I
it
don't
doesn't
know.
matter. She was using her personal platforms,
Right.
and yeah, sure, but just like anything, you post something out on the internet for people to see,
Yeah.
you open that door, people are going to walk on through and they're going to tell
Yeah.
you what you think, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
just what it is.
Yep.
Anyway.
People just have to be smart. I mean, either be a good person or just be smart. And she was neither in this situation. So
Fair.
good luck with her movie. I don't think it'll be as big as The Mandalorian, but maybe I've been wrong before. So we'll
Hey,
see.
well, we'll see. She has
But
supporters and cool, whatever. You've got people who are
yeah,
supporting you and share your plight, but um
and she
whatever.
could always go back to fighting if she wanted to. I'm sure they'd bring her back. The UFC would bring her back. So she won't go hungry, Gina Carano. So,
Hey, she was
let
looking thick. She was looking pretty thick though. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Well, the thing is, when she was a fighter, I don't think she was that big because
I don't think she was
there's
either.
there's like weight classes and stuff like that. I don't.
Right, right.
So I don't know. Maybe she was like
Anyway.
training for something, or maybe she's doing bodybuilding. I don't know. But yeah, she did look bigger in the second season, like muscular. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she looked like a thick girl.
yeah.
But
So
anyway.
anyway, that about wraps it up for today's show. But before we leave, Brittany, how can people? And I just decried social media, but how can people find us on social media?
Hey, listen, this is, it's a topic. It's obviously part of pop culture. This is who we are. We talk all things pop culture, including sports and, other things that are, big right now, obviously.
Yeah.
We've talked election. We've talked, just, things that really matter to us, obviously. So we would love to hear your input, whether or not you agree or disagree with us. Let's just have an open dialogue. We're not going to be here to say, hey, you better agree with me. I'm going to shove my agenda down your throat. No, it's never going to be like that. We're just here to, you know, talk and,
Yeah, but you better agree with me though. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
God.
Go
I
ahead.
can I can make so many comments, but I'm not going to.
I know.
No, but anyway, yeah. So let's join us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can search the Watchers in the Basement. We would love once again to have your input on what we discussed today with WandaVision, everything else that's going on in the world today too. You know, there's a lot going on, y'all. Like just a lot. Um, but hopefully this space here will kind of bring you some joy. Maybe make you think things, outside of the box, right? So again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Don't forget to use the hashtag on Twitter, Watchers Basement, if you want to tweet at us and let us know what you want us to review. And also, don't forget to head over to YouTube where you can subscribe, hit that notification bell to find out the latest uploads from us. And if you're not into video podcasts, that's cool. We are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google, I can say it, Google Podcasts, all thanks to Anchor.fm, where they make it just super easy for us to podcast because it's fun. It's fun to do. So be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. That'd be very helpful. And tell others about us. We'd appreciate it.
It's fun and free. It's two of the best F words. There's another one. There's a couple other ones. Yeah, those are two of the good ones. So
yeah, right.
yeah, before I get in trouble, we'll wrap the show up now. So thanks, Brittany. Hopefully next week we'll have the full crew back as we will discuss episode 7 of WandaVision. But until then, stay safe, stay warm. We will see you next week. Bye bye.